Hey there, guys. Welcome to the channel. So I want to talk about a clip I recently came across. It's Vivek Ramaswamy, who, if you've been following me, I really like this guy. I believe in him. I think he's going to do great things. Anyway, he's at the Iowa State Fair, and you might recognize that place since basically every GOP candidate is making the rounds there, trying to gain some traction before the primaries. And Iowa is one of the earliest places to vote. So anyway, this video is catching a lot of attention. So Vivek has a really candid exchange with a reporter who identifies as pansexual, addressing the topics of same-sex marriage, LGBTQ plus rights. And I wanted to do a video on this because, first off, like I said, I really like Vivek. And second, I think that whether left, right, or middle, this right here, I think, speaks for a ton of different Americans on this exact topic. And he put it across so eloquently, so respectfully, and so straight to the point that I think we all got to see. So let's dive in. Before we do, guys, thanks to everyone who's been subscribing and leaving such great comments. Really do appreciate your support. If you haven't already, please help us with the algorithm. Please make sure you like, comment, subscribe. Most importantly, share the channel. Every time you do, the leftist loses their wings.
I was just wondering, what were your opinions on the LGBTQ plus community?
Well, I don't think it's one community.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, how could it be? Just mashed together an alphabet soup. Trans is fundamentally in tension with gay, if you ask me. But what's your opinion?
I'm personally pansexual, so I was just wondering what your views on same-sex couples were.
I don't have a negative view of same-sex couples, but I do have a negative view of a tyranny of the minority. So I think that in the name of protecting against a tyranny of the majority, and there are times in this country's history where we have had a tyranny of the majority, we have now, in the name of protecting against tyranny of the majority, created a new tyranny of the minority. And I think that that's wrong. I don't think that somebody who's religious should be forced to officiate a wedding that they disagree with. I don't think somebody who is a woman who's worked really hard for her achievements should be forced to compete against a biological man in a swim competition. I don't think that somebody who's a woman that respects her bodily autonomy and dignity should be forced to change clothes in a locker room with a man. That's not freedom, that's oppression. And so I believe that we live in a country where free adults should be free to dress how they want, behave how they want, and that's fine. But you don't become oppressive by foisting that on others. And that especially includes kids, because kids aren't the same as adults. And so I think adults are free to make whatever choices they want, but do not foist that ideology onto children before children are in a position as adults to make decisions for themselves. And so I think a lot of the frustration in the country, and if I'm being really honest, that I also share, comes from that new culture of oppression where saying those things can actually get somebody punished. And in my case, it's part of why it's my responsibility to say them. And I respect that you may have a different opinion, and that's okay. Part of what makes our country great is that you and I can be civil and have this conversation, and that we live in a country that still gives us, each of us, the right to speak to a presidential candidate and back, and still say that we pledge allegiance to the same nation. So I think that's the beauty of our country, and that's my honest opinion.
Awesome. Well,
Thanks.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Thank you for your civility as well. I appreciate it.
So let me know in the comments what you guys actually think of that. But personally, if you ask me, the response was spot on. He has a knack for addressing divisive issues with grace and unity, and he doesn't shy away from them like so many politicians. They just cower and they deflect no matter what. Even if they have a great answer, they just can't say it. And I did a video a month or so ago about him literally welcoming back a loud activist who had interrupted him at an event and actually invited her back to speak her piece and have a conversation. We don't ever see this in politics today, or ever. And anyway, so the conversation around LGBTQ plus rights, or rather the privilege some argue that they're asking for, is a hot topic for sure. But here's the thing. No one's really bothered about anyone else's personal choices. Like what you wear, who you're with, what you do, no one cares. The concern only comes when there's an attempt to impose those beliefs on everybody else. There's this sentiment now that if you believe in letting trans individuals live their lives happily, but also maintain boundaries in terms of biological spaces, then you're labeled right-wing. You're a crazy person. You're a bigot. How the hell did we get here, man? A decade ago, this was, just the most common of all common sense. The shift in narratives, it hasn't it's just become so crazy, so insane, that was once common sense, like I said, is now viewed as extremist by mostly some of our loudest fellow citizens, but let's not kid ourselves. Recent polls, and not just, from the more conservative outlets, but polls from all over are showing a huge chunk of the U.S. population. They are not in agreement with a lot of these progressive agendas, especially around issues like puberty blockers, transgender athletes in sports. Anyway, so I don't want to get in trouble on YouTube, but I'm super impressed with Vivek, and if you look at Trump's polling 8 years ago, I'm not saying anything except for this. I'm saying if you look at Trump's polling 8 years ago, there's a lot of similarity. And I really believe that this guy can win this thing, but assuming Trump wins, which is what a lot of people, of course, think, to me, the only choice for VP has got to be Vivek. I'm just so sick and tired of career politicians. And Vivek, he's got ability, man. He can handle tough questions. He can pivot on narratives. He can handle criticism. It's unmatched. Trump can't do it like this. The guy's got amazing skill at taking a critique and flipping it to his advantage. Just look at what he did on Maria Bartiromo, talking about the Hunter Biden headlines. The guy's got tact. Look at this.
Well, that all sounds very good, Vivek, especially in the face of all of these allegations of corruption and cover-up at the DOJ and the FBI. So it leads me to the next question of, did you just say the other day that you want to pardon Hunter Biden? We have evidence, bank records of potential bribery. Ted Cruz just said, if this is true, Biden should go to jail. Are you talking about pardoning the Biden family?
Maria, that was misquoted and purposeful opposition research with the headline. You know how this game is played. I've actually been very clear. I've been the only presidential candidate who has been this clear that the first thing we need to do is clean house, shut down the FBI, refurbish the DOJ. I'm the only candidate to actually pledge to pardon Trump for all of these political persecutions through prosecutions, even peaceful January 6th protesters on down. I'm also happy to go on record. I heard you talking about it before. I'm on record going in favor of an impeachment inquiry on Biden, because I personally believe the Ukraine war is indeed a repayment for a bribe made, now sending $200 billion of taxpayer money in the other direction. But what I've said is, let me fast forward to January 21st, 2025, my second day in office, after we've issued those pardons, after we've set into motion shutting down the FBI, not just reforming it, actually restoring the integrity of our government. The question is the next thing that I then want to do after we've set our nation forward, is it to then focus my agenda on persecuting or prosecuting Joe Biden or his family? My answer to that question is no. I'm going to be focused on stimulating the economy, ending the war in Ukraine, declaring independence from China. That is how we win as one nation. And so, no, I'm not going to be guided by vengeance and grievance. I'm going to be guided by integrity. But the first step to getting there is there can be no reconciliation without truth. We have to get to the bottom of including that bribe, I believe, paid to the Biden family, how that's tied to our war in Ukraine and our support of that war in Ukraine. Get to the bottom of that first. And I stand on the side of leading us forward to a national revival, but we can't get there without first being told the truth. That's where I'm at, Maria.
So you see, this guy, he has skill. He can lay out his beliefs and he can do it eloquently. Most politicians, they can dodge a curveball, and they will dodge a curveball, but he doesn't even seem to think that most of these questions are curveballs. I genuinely expected him to talk about not wanting to increase political polarization, but no, he took it head on, cleared the air, and then quickly shifted to what he's truly passionate about, which is policy. And this is not something we see from politicians. We sure as hell don't see it from GOP people. They're usually too busy apologizing and backtracking, even think about answering a tough question. Instead of getting caught up in the noise, this dude stays on message, keeping everything about vision, keeping everything about agenda. And honestly, having a guy like him on Trump's side, really on our side, will be a game changer, because the guy, he's focused on policy, not pettiness. He talks about vision, he talks about goals, and I can't think of anyone in the GOP who does it really at all. But I definitely can't think of anyone who does it as effortlessly and as unifying as this guy does. Let me know in the comments if you agree with me or if I'm crazy, if I'm just grasping at straws here. But, if I were in Trump's circle, I would be heavily endorsing Vivek as VP. who knows? We'll see what happens in the primaries. Maybe Trump will be my VP. I don't know. But I believe that he could give Trump's campaign that extra edge, any campaign that extra edge. I hope that his campaign gets the extra edge. But imagine the left trying to grapple with having a guy like Vivek on the ticket. Of course, the typical narratives, they don't usually work. But he'll be an Indian white supremacist, of course, just like Larry Elder was the black face of white supremacy. But, it sounds ridiculous, and it will be ridiculous. It can't possibly work. But that kind of foolishness, man, it only works, honestly, in California, like I said. But anyway, guys, that's just my take. Let me know yours in the comments. If you haven't already, please help us with the algorithm. Like, comment, subscribe. Most importantly, share the channel. We'll see you in the next one.